Okay, hey, welcome to another episode of On Point EDC. Today I have another great update for you from the brand Tactile Knife Company. They were founded by Will Hodges of Tactile Turn Machined Pens fame. They're of course still USA based, and essentially everything is hand machined and assembled in Texas. Now in terms of the type of knife, I consider these EDC folding utility knives, and some key characteristics and design language. You're looking for something within that range that you can carry every single day. You're going to want, of course, a pocketable size and a very versatile blade. This is the Rockwall Thumbstud model. And this is actually, we're going to focus on the KnifeCenter exclusive with the gun stock pattern and the MagnaCut blade, which is a really exciting release that I'm happy to share with you guys. I have covered the Rockwall, including the Thumbstud variation, here a couple times on the channel in the past. So instead of kind of redoing the same thing with a knife that is not that much different, I'll definitely just focus on some of the key differences, as well as, of course, my standard thoughts and review points from there on out. So with that said, let's go ahead, zoom the camera out, get these pieces in hand, and take a closer look. All right, guys, now before we get these pieces in hand, quick customary wristwatch check. Today, you see here the SPB 317. This is known as the Slim Turtle, and it's from Seiko. And the reason why I think it fits so well while reviewing these pieces is really because at the end of the day, there's something about that classic aesthetic, and just it's nostalgic almost. And this is one of those things where you're getting a very classically themed piece, although it's new and original. I think especially with the gun stock pattern on the handle there's just something that's really special about this particular knife. I think the proportions, the way it feels in hand, the way it feels in pocket, it's just honestly hits such a sweet spot. I mean, the footprint of this knife is not much different than something like a Swiss Army knife. It's pretty wild, guys. I mean, take that into consideration. It's definitely, in terms of the pocketability here, guys, it's very similar. So there's something that's really classic about this knife, and I think it's just really enhanced by this gorgeous gun stock pattern. So a little bit about these Rockwall Thumbstuds. They're American-made pocket knives with really commensurate, and they'd say they are commensurate with the quality we've come to expect from Tactile Turn machined pens. This is the KnifeCenter exclusive with the gun stock pattern grips there, and it has a MagnaCut blade, as you can see here. A little bit about MagnaCut. It's an extremely corrosion resistant blade steel that's actually a lot more corrosion resistant than 20CV, with the toughness of a 4V tool steel and the edge retention of basically S45VN super steel. So this is a very desirable blade steel right now. This has been heat treated to a Rockwall hardness of about 61. So not the hardest MagnaCut you can get on the market, but completely fine at 61. Every different steel is going to have kind of its own sweet spot. I think if you really max this out, from what I've read and studied, I think around 64, 63 Rockwall is kind of the pinnacle of what they can get MagnaCut to. But at 61, it's definitely still going to be really well balanced and well rounded, which is pretty much kind of the whole purpose of the MagnaCut steel. So I don't mind 61 at all, especially for something that is produced. Whoa, you see that drop shut action there? Here in the good old US of A. So you can get this particular variation from KnifeCenter.com for $329, and it's just gorgeous. It has this crucible CPM MagnaCut ultra premium stainless steel. It has that key kind of drop clip point blade. It's flat ground, stone wash finish, very sharp out of box, and then you do get a nice little sharpening choil, as you can see here. The handle itself is made out of grade 5 titanium, and it is, if you're wondering, oh, well, grade 5 versus grade 2, Basically, the higher in the grade, typically the more of an alloy it's going to be. So there's going to be other elements that are going to be mixed in with the titanium. A grade 2 would be a little bit more pure and probably a little bit easier to work with, while a grade 5 is going to be a little tougher to work with, but also contain some other elements besides just pure titanium. So this is, and has been a really great knife for quite some time. This is my personal Rockwall Thumbstud model, and it is probably one of my more carried knives. A lot of it has to do with the action, also the size and scale, and the overall fit and finish, and the fact that, yeah, it's a USA made piece, and it's nice to carry something like that. There is a little point of pride, at least for me, as somebody who resides in the US. And so there's just something that is a little bit cool about that, which I can appreciate. Although this one is the 20 CV blade, which I love. 20 CV is essentially just kind of an American version of M390, pretty much, when it comes to the kind of chemical compound. Now, this is the standard model, but there are some key updates that have happened besides just this cool gun stock. When I say the gun stock, the old kind of pistol grips, how they have this kind of diamond style patterning here, you can see that it's done really beautifully here, and then it still has the standard kind of washings in terms of the fit and finish. But some things you'll notice, check out the lettering. It's actually a deeper engraving versus here it's like a laser engraving that seems like it's sitting more on the surface. Also, you'll see the thumb stud is a little bit higher finished. It's more of a satin finish versus the tumbled kind of finish here that's a little bit more matted. So that's another nice touch. And then a really great touch, something I appreciate, something that I mentioned previously in my reviews, is the pocket clip actually has an extended ramp. So that's been kind of one of the only, I'd say, Achilles heels of this knife, is with this shorter ramp. And then of course its tightness there. It's going to be a lot easier to slip on thinner materials. If you're, putting this in your pocket and you're wearing, some summertime kind of attire in terms of like thinner materials like shorts and whatnot, or tactical pants. Here, this will be, fine with standard jeans and everything like that. It's going to slide on and off a lot easier with that extended ramp. And the nice thing is it's actually not giving you any more of a hot spot or anything like that. As you can see here, it has a very subtle slope to it. It's not really sticking out too far. It doesn't seem overdone. So I really like that. But when I look at these, those are kind of some of the main differences. But I will say that pretty much every time that Tactile knife, just like Tactile turn pens, every time they do new iterations, they just continue to get better and better. So I will say that's something that feels noticeably different, is the build quality here. Although it's a really great action, there's a certain level of looseness that just feels like it's there. I mean, not in a, hey, it's the end of the world type of thing, but I will say that there's just a little bit of, in terms of the tolerances, there's just that little room, there's just air, where you just feels just a little bit more apparent that there's something that you can tighten down in here, right? But I will say this one just feels even more solid, which is great. And like, the crazy thing is this one didn't even really feel that loose until I started carrying this one right here. So that's really interesting about these knives, is like this was just, still is fidgetable and very, very lovely. But there's just a certain, again, it's not in a bad way. It's not the end of the world, not defectively loose, but compared to this, there's just definitely tightness in the tolerance, which I can appreciate. I guess you can kind of compare it to something like this, from Seiko versus something from 10, 20 years ago, like the Seiko SKX, which was a great piece and everybody loved it. But then you start comparing things like the bezel tolerances and whatnot when you give this dive time bezel a turn, and it feels different and it feels more quality. And that's something here where I mean, obviously it looks great, but the quality and the tolerances just feel like they've been taken up an extra notch, which I can really appreciate. Now, again, apart from that elongated ramp, you're still going to get the great titanium hardware with the T8, holes and everything like that. So you can use the same tool. Let me get that to focus there. So, it really only has those three kind of points coming through. You have a nice backspacer, which is actually steel. I believe this is stainless steel, and then also the clip is steel, and then of course the inset liner is also steel, and the blade is made out of steel. So there's a good mixture of titanium and steel. You're getting some nice contouring on the outside, as well as some pocketing and milling done on the inside, which is going to help reduce overall weight, as you can see there. So really nicely done. There's even a little recess here, and the upper part of the if you look on the other side of this backspacer, where there's a little relief in case your blade ever comes close enough, maybe just from force of closing, to where there's a little bit of tolerance to where it could come close. It's not going to bash on it because it does have that little cutout, which is really nice. You can see the stop pin right here. So really, really solid. And again, and they just turned it up, which I can appreciate. And it's something that, up and coming brands are really known for, is they're working on each iteration to improve the quality, to tweak the design, and this is one that I really, really, really like. There are a lot of other options that are available on the market, that this would be competitive with, but I will say that being USA made, also having the MagnaCut blade, also having a wholly original design here. It's not derivative of really anything else that's out there. I'd say the only thing in terms of where you could say it's derivative in any way is in the fact that it just looks classic because of its proportions. And there are other knives that have similar proportions, like let's say a Chris Reeves Knives small Sebenza, which I own a few. But this, really in terms of looks wise, looks nothing like it, and really offers you something else that definitely feels a lot more modern at the end of the day. So I'm really enjoying this thing. 7 inches overall, which is a great pocketable size, just under 3 inches on the blade at 2.84, and then the handle itself, when everything's closed, is about 4 inches, and then the weight's about 2.54 ounces. So very, very nice. In hand, the stick-like ergonomics are nice. They don't feel overly thin because there is a little bit of a girth here, on kind of the wideness to this, and it just feels like it can lock in really, really nicely, which I can appreciate. You're also getting ceramic ball bearing pivots, so of course that action is very smooth and snappy. Nice detent with I believe a ceramic ball on the inside there. It might be a steel ball. We can get a look at it. Could be ceramic, could be steel. You see it right there glimmering. Let me know in the comments below if you know for sure. But it is nicely done and nicely dialed in terms of the detent. The thumb stud geometry is also really nice. So you can pretty much just one way, just push it and it's just rockets out, which is great. And then when it comes to in pocket, it lays very flat, very unobtrusive, again, similar to something like a Swiss Army knife in terms of its overall silhouette. And then, it makes loading even easier on thicker fabrics now that they extended that that ramp on the pocket clip, which is great. And this is definitely a deep riding pocket clip. As you can see here, it comes all the way to the butt of the handle, so it's really just going to be completely concealed when you do have something like that, and you're wearing it. So very nice. In terms of model variants, there's also a traditional flipper model of this available, as well as several blade steel options and, you know, and custom textured handles with different types of patterns depending on the different dealers. So there are a couple of dealer exclusives that are also available out there, which also all look really great, and it kind of makes these even collectible to a certain point. I mean, there aren't that many variants, but it definitely is one where, yeah, it's kind of fun to have a couple of different takes on such a lovely silhouette, especially with these really, really outstanding specs. So comparable options, you know, not a ton of competition in the USA made category, especially with this level of in-house production, but you could always compare this, of course, to the Chris Reeve knives, small Sebenza, you know, the 31 or the 21 in the past, if you have one of those. The 31 would be the most recent model. You can consider that really as a benchmark, but these are really different in terms of the design and execution, where Chris Reeves is very minimalist. This is definitely going to have a couple more bells and whistles. So if you think of Chris Reeves knives as, I guess you could say like a Porsche, you know, very smooth and minimal and not doing anything too crazy, just doing everything really, really well. That's fine. And then you could consider something like this, maybe a little bit more, you know, something more exciting like a Lambo, a Ferrari, or a Pagani. We're just doing things a little bit more modern, a little bit different, and not necessarily kind of having that same iteration looking like itself over and over, instead changing and kind of moving with the market today. So really, really nice. Bottom line here, in typical Tactile fashion, they somehow find a way to make a $300 knife, you know, feel like a bargain, which I think is pretty cool. So with that said, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you like the video, please do it like. And if you haven't already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.